Okay, testing, testing. One, two, three. All right, we're going live a little early, like we often do lately. We won't start for half an hour, but let's see what fun things we can do here. Oh, that's not right. There it is. Okay. So let's see what fun things we can do while we're waiting to get started. We'll do that, and we'll do that, and we'll do that. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. All right. For those of you who don't know, this is our Monday afternoon class. It's usually starts in about half an hour, so that's when we'll start. We are doing a year two class here. So the year two backbone course is a chronological narrative storytelling version of all of philosophy, essentially. So we do way before the pre-Socratics, but then we do Thales and all the pre-Socratics. We do Socrates. We go right up through the Middle Ages. So it's an ancient, it's a medieval, it's a modern, and it's a 19th century philosophy course, but it's told in a way that shows a poetry between them and a repeating. There's like 12 lenses for understanding philosophy from a metaphilosophical perspective. It's a very nice course. We're not doing it right now. It will be done at some point on here. However, what accompanies those courses are these symposium classes where we say, look, we spent a lot of time on these guys, but we didn't spend quite as much time on Socrates or Plato as we might have. So what we're doing on Mondays is that one of those courses where we're reading all of Plato. And we've read 4 dialogues so far, and we're going to be reading the rest of Plato on Mondays at this time. We're also going to be doing a meditating with Descartes course. This is the dialoguing with Plato course. We're going to be doing a Thomas Aquinas course. There's a bunch of people that we're going to spend a lot more time looking at. I'm I'm putting together a Ghazali Averroes Ibn Rushd thing. It's not quite put together, but that should be another one of the courses that accompany the Backbone Year 2 material. So most of what we're doing on the week is Year 1 material. It's done in a very different style. It's cherry picking, it's formal introduction, academic philosophy, all of that. And so we're doing the Backbone course on Tuesdays. And on Thursdays and Fridays, we're doing two of the classes that accompany the Backbone course. We're doing philosophy of mind and philosophy of religion. There's a few others. There's ethics and metaphysics and epistemology. Those will start at some point, but there's other courses that'll accompany that Backbone course. But in the year 2 material, we're just doing 1 year 2 class right now, which is the dialoguing with Plato, and then when that's done, we'll use this time slot to do more year 2 things. The year 3 backbone course is a really, really awesome, rock and roll awesome class on decoding Zarathustra, looking at all of philosophy for a third time through Nietzsche's lens and with his hammer. And the classes that accompany that are even more than just reading the works. They're called deep dive courses into Kierkegaard, Jung, Jordan Peterson, William James, and Reed as well. So sort of these existentialists and pragmatists and kind of children of Nietzsche in one aspect at least. And so we are actually doing one of those courses on Saturday. On Saturdays, where I think we'll be starting our 12th class on Saturdays of our deep dive into Jordan Peterson as a child of Nietzsche, in the context of the Nietzsche stuff. So at some point, we'll do the Backbone course again. I did it in an unrecorded version last year on Twitter Spaces, and that was really fun. But we're going to do an even better version. We're going to do it recorded on here at some point when we find time in the schedule. There's some exciting news. My schedule's shaking itself up, and I might have more time soon, and that'll be really fun. But so we have that 1 year 3 course that accompanies that backbone course that's happening on Saturdays. And this on Mondays is our year 2 course that accompanies the backbone course of the year 2 material. And this is our dialoguing with Plato. So we're starting a half hour early just to give people a little bit of time to get in here. And what I'll do is I will share some memes, and we will do some memes for the next 20 minutes, and people can find the recording of what I just talked about there. We're also doing a literature class on Wednesdays, and we're reading Shakespeare in Twitter Spaces on Saturday morning before the Jordan Peterson class. That's most of our calendar. After we're done with Plato today, and after the literature class, both of which start early like this, they usually start in about 20 minutes from now. Uh, that would be 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What we do is as soon as we're done, we go and launch a Twitter space for everybody to just anybody can grab a mic and we'll talk about everything we've read and talked about. Today we're going to be doing the Credo, and I'm really excited because it's one of my five favorites to read, and it's going to give us a lot of information about Socrates and get to know him. For those of you who don't yet know, you should start getting into these Plato classes because on the 22nd, we will be reading Ion. And Ion is about inspiration and art. And we have two special guests who are going to be on stream with me, and I'm going to be interviewing them. They are both artists. You may know at least one of their names, maybe both of them. And one of them has an album coming out soon, and the other one is a painter. And we are going to be doing some conversation about the nature of art and the method and inspiration and all sorts of things because, well, Socrates showed the artist doesn't know how they're doing what they're doing, but he could figure it out. And that doesn't mean he could do it, but we're going to talk about all that stuff. It's going to be really, really fun. So that's going to be on the 22nd, and you're not going to want to miss it. So in the meantime, why don't we just play with some memes? And that's what we'll do. If we can make these larger. Yeah, that's a better way to do it. Cool. So we're going to do some memes and we're going to wait until did that work? Didn't make it any bigger. It's even a little better. Okay, cool. All right, we're going to be doing Plato's Credo. Oh, I forgot to send the link out to the regulars. Um, but the Credo is going to be fantastic. And so we will. Oh, yeah, I got to do that too. Okay. Bear with me. Here we go. I forgot to do all this stuff. Technology. Technology. This is something people are going to want to be a part of soon. Oh, I love this meme. This meme's hilarious. Okay, so get in here and let me copy that and send that. What? And we'll just send that out kind of to that. Now that's, and if I remember, where did I put this? Okay, we are going to start in about 15 minutes. So for now, let's just look at some more. Let's look at some more memes and then we'll get started. If anybody wants to be on the live stream to interrupt the reading and ask questions and have a conversation, you can DM me and we will send you a link perhaps. Also, other than that, just watch on the live stream. I would play some fun songs or some Monty Python sketches about philosophy, And the problem is, um, YouTube likes to kill the account. So what we're doing is we're just going to look at some memes for about 15 more minutes before our usual start time. For those who are just joining in, you need to get into these Plato classes because on the 22nd, we will be reading Ion, which is all about art and inspiration. And we have two special guests coming to do an interview. One who has an album coming out soon, and you may have heard her name, and the other one who is an excellent painter. And we will be looking at their art and we will be talking about the nature of art and how it's done and inspiration and muses and all of that stuff when we read that dialogue. So this is going to get even better all the time. But typically what we do is we start in about 15 minutes from now, which is 5 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to start at that time again today. We're doing the Credo today, which is one of my favorite of Plato's dialogues. It's going to be really fun. This is our fifth get together, and we're doing this year two material where we get to read all of Plato, and that goes and accompanies the backbone course of the year two material, along with other such classes like this, where we do meditating with Descartes. We're going to do a deep dive of that sort on Aquinas. We're going to do Ghazali and Averroes or Ibn Rushd. There's a bunch of other classes that'll accompany the year two backbone material, which starts with Thales, really before him, but starts with Thales and goes right up through 19th century philosophy. We're not doing that course right now. Mostly what we're doing is year one material on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We have our backbone course on Tuesday. We have philosophy of mind and philosophy of religion, which are on Thursday and Friday. Those are two of the courses that accompany the backbone course. There's three others that will be coming. But on Mondays, we get to start a little earlier, and we're doing one of these year two complementary courses that accompany the backbone course. And this one is dialoguing with Plato. So we will start at our usual time and we'll just run some memes until then. But you should get into this. It's really, really enjoyable. I absolutely love reading these and learning. We're going to have discussion. We'll do a little bit of lecturing. And then right after class on Mondays and our literature class on Wednesdays, we immediately start an open spaces on Twitter where anybody and everybody can grab a mic and you can talk about what was said and what was read and point things out that are interesting, historical context and philosophical things I missed or stuff you want to quarrel with me on. As inaccurate that I said in the lecture part or whatever. We're going to get together and talk about all that stuff right after we're done reading today's, the fifth dialogue, which is Credo. So we're going to read the Credo today. And then as soon as it's done, the lecture's done, and whatever we get into gets finished, we're going to immediately open up a Twitter space for anybody to grab a mic. And so take notes, add your reflections. Add your 2 cents. Let's get an argument going or a conversation or something like that. But for now, we're just going to play some memes for another 15 minutes. Unfortunately, I can't play Monty Python sketches or anything else because or YouTube loves to take away my right to stream things. And I'm not really trying to build the YouTube channel, but I am kind of using it to archive all these classes. So, oh, I love this meme. It's so funny, Shishak. Oh my gosh, that one really cracks me up every time I see it. Um, that's that's a good meme. So we'll be starting at our usual time in about 15 minutes with the Credo, which is one of my five favorite of Plato's dialogues, and we're gonna have a lot. If you've been enjoying getting to know Socrates so far in the first four classes, this is going to be a major good one. Um, it's going to be very enjoyable. The Phaedo, the Meno, the Credo, the Apology. We're kind of sticking with the first third dialogues right now, and we'll move on to the middle and then the third period with Plato, and we'll talk about what all that means at some point. But this is funny too. Zizek just he's always funny. But we're gonna keep doing this. This is our year two course to accompany the backbone course called Dialoguing with Plato, and it's one of a few courses we have. And it's really the only year two material that we're doing right now. Everything else we're doing is um, year one stuff, except for Saturday, we're doing a year three material class on earlier before noon, basically. We're doing one of our deep dives into one of the children of Nietzsche, or you know thinkers prophesied or made possible by Nietzsche, or who will make allusions to Nietzsche, or Nietzsche's twin. We're going to look at Kierkegaard and William James and Jordan Peterson and Jung and a bunch of guys, and we're going to do a deep dive. So we actually our 12th class on Jordan Peterson will be this Saturday, and we've done 11 classes and haven't even made it through the second video of his psychological significance of the biblical stories series, which is just the beginning of what we're going to be looking at through him. So it's a real deep dive, and we've got great slides and lots of stuff to look at. Oh, I should have turned my phone off. Oh, that's good to do that before we get officially started. Okay. Why don't we do this? And I'll send the link out that I should have sent out earlier to this individual. If you want to be in the live stream and interrupt and ask questions and participate in a conversation, DM me about that. If you want to just watch it on Twitter and then join the live Twitter space right afterwards, where we will have mics for everybody and we can all discuss this after the reading and the lecture is done, then go ahead and do that. Oh, feel free to please take the post on Twitter, retweet it, send it around, do something like that, because we've got a really exciting treat coming on the 22nd, which I've already talked about. Two artists whose names you may know, one who has an album coming out that has not been released yet, but we will discuss the lyrics of that album. I have the music ahead of time. The other one who's a painter, a really fantastic painter. They will be coming on when we do Plato's Ion and we discuss art and artists and inspiration. These are professional artists. Um, it's not Taylor Swift level, but they are names that you may know. They're not just whatever. I won't disparage anybody else, but these are really, really awesome artists, and they're going to be on here on the 22nd when we get to that. So spread this around if you like, and make sure you start coming to Plato's dialogue classes because we've got some good treats coming up soon. Um, that's enough on that. In any event, we are going to start at the same time as we usually start, but sometimes I like going live a little bit early just to talk about the schedule and what we've been up to and what's coming up soon and sort of how this fits in with the core curriculum of everything else. I love midwit memes. I'm not sure I would say this would be my favorite. Let's see. But midwit memes are awesome. So if you collect them and send them to me, we'll add a lot of those into our little collection of philosophy memes. Now, is this one going to fit? I don't think it's going to fit. How do we make it fit? Well, we go like this. Oh, that'll work. Cool. So we've just got another 10 minutes and we're going to start with Plato's Credo. It's one of my favorites. We're going to read it. We'll discuss it. I've read a couple in this class already that I haven't read before, and they were really fun and they were really fantastic and learned a lot of fun stuff. But the Credo is one that I've read a lot. It's really worth paying attention to. And I know that if you've been enjoying, one of the ambitions of this class is that we would get to know Socrates a little bit, get to know him and his character. And this is a really good dialogue for that. I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be really good. So we're going to read the Credo tonight. We're going to talk about it a bit. I'm going to end it, and we're going to immediately launch a Twitter space. Come on in, grab a mic, and we'll discuss everything that's in the recorded part of this in that Twitter space afterwards. All right, 9 more minutes. Have you tried voluntary discomfort? You got to love it. This is so unfair, but very funny. Philosophy memes really are great. So to recap, spread the link. I'm starting a little early. Been talking about the schedule. This is the only year two material that we're doing right now. It's a class to accompany the year two backbone material, which we will start at some point. My schedule's been shaken up a bit in a really good way. So we might be starting the backbone material of year two and Nietzsche's Zarathustra, the backbone material of year three, Decoding Zarathustra. We might be starting them before you know it. We'll see how that works out. But this is one of the courses that accompany the backbone in each year. And this is a year two accompanied course on dialoguing with Plato, where we get to spend time really spending more time on the actual writings of Plato than how we spend a lot of time on Plato. We spend as much time on Plato as Socrates and as Aristotle, and we spend about the same amount of time on all the pre-Socratics, and we should probably spend more time. And maybe I'll be able to convince Tweetafon to help put together a bit more on the pre-Socratics, an alternative way of interpreting philosophy from my emphasis on Socrates. We may get there one day, and that would be pretty fun. I don't know what this is. Let me just respond. But what was I saying? Oh, I'm gonna just mute this so that this doesn't keep happening, and that would be a smart thing. Okay, we're gonna start in 8 minutes. The phone won't interrupt us again. So retweet it, send it out. This is year two material that we're doing on Mondays. We've got a literature class on Wednesdays that we're doing. Right now, we're reading The Thousand and One Nights and other books influenced or inspired, got inspiration from it, make allusions to it. So we're reading Salman Rushdie's 2 years, 8 months, and 28 nights, which adds up to a thousand nights and one night more. That's we're 3 chapters into that, so we'll be starting the fourth chapter on Wednesday, and we'll be reading about the Porter stories. We just got through the fisherman stories of the Thousand and One Nights. At the end of that class, we'll also do a Twitter space. Just Monday and Wednesday, we're doing a Twitter space right after class is over. The rest of the material we're doing is year one material. We're doing the backbone course for year one. It's done in that cherry picking style. It's very introductory and formal introduction, philosophy 101 stuff. We've done our backbone section on determinism and free will. We've done our section on the existence of God, our introductory section on subjective versus objective nature of moral judgments, and the mind body problem. We're now halfway through the a priori section, and we have 3 other sections to do in the backbone course. But then the accompanying courses are deeper introductions. There's still surveys of the battlefield, but you get into a lot more. And on Thursdays, we just got into behaviorism in our philosophy of mind course. It's really exciting and it's starting to pick up. And then on Thursday, we're doing philosophy of religion. And that's going well too. I really like that class. So there's other courses to accompany the backbone of year one, but those are the two that we're doing. So that's Tuesday, backbone, Thursday and Friday, mind and religion. We start later with all of those than we do on the Monday and Wednesday courses. And then the only year three material that we're doing is is Jordan Peterson in the context of Nietzsche, which is a year three deep dive into thinkers that were sort of made possible or by Nietzsche or are greatly existentialists and pragmatists and phenomenologists and things like that. So we're going to look at Kierkegaard and William James and Jung and Peterson and others, and we're doing a real deep dive. So we're on our 12th class on Jordan Peterson this weekend, and that's the only year three material that's being done right now. But yeah, so that's the calendar. Retweet this out on the 22nd, Monday. In the Plato class, we will be reading Ion. That's the dialogue where Socrates converses with the artist and the inspired one who's connected to the muses, who can do this thing, the great dreamer. And he doesn't know how he's doing what he's doing. And he thinks it's because he has more knowledge. And Socrates says, well, these other people know more about it than you do, but nobody pays them a lot of money to come and hear you say the lines. And other people just read the scripts and you pay a ducat for that. And nobody really cares, but that's going on all the time. What's different about what you're doing? And through the conversation, it's, it's a defense of inspiration and revelation. And so what we have on the 22nd when we do that dialogue are 2 artists. You may or may not have heard of their names, but it wouldn't be too surprising if you've heard of at least one of them. One who has a new surprise album that she's been working on for 2 years straight that's just about to come out, and where you might even ask questions about some of the lyrics. I've heard the album. It's remarkable. It really is. It's pretty impressive. Yeah. So we'll be talking about and interviewing and having conversations with a painter and a musician who are very successful professional musicians. And that's going to be happening on the 22nd. So go ahead and spread this link and make sure that you start coming to the Plato dialogue classes. Why is this in here? I don't know why this is a meme, but here's another meme. We know what that is. Oh, that's funny. I like that. Okay, so that's fun. And we're gonna be starting in 4 minutes, so we'll be ending the memes soon. But that's all the conversation. I wanted to start a little earlier, talk about what's coming up, what the calendar looks like. We might be able to add some new classes in soon, which would be really exciting. Probably. Oh, I can't believe I forgot this. In mere weeks, weeks from now, 4 at the most, at the absolute most, Dr. Tartaglia is coming to join this project. The first of the 3 classes that he's gonna start doing is an unbelievable course on Gödel's incompleteness theorem. He's gonna be teaching how to derive it. He's gonna be teaching how to use Gödel numbers. He's gonna be teaching formal systems. He's gonna be teaching everything that you need to know to accurately actually understand Gödel's incompleteness theorem rather than all the things that people say it means without necessarily knowing what it means. He has a course coming within weeks on Gödel's incompleteness theorem. We're getting the tech worked out, we're getting the slides worked out. Everything is happening soon. He's got other courses that are really exciting that are coming too, also soon. But Dr. Tartaglia will be joining this project. And if you know anybody who likes math, you don't have to be a math genius. He's gonna make sure that you learn everything you need to learn. We talked about imagine you have a very, very clever high schooler and you could teach it to them, but they need to learn a lot of things to get there. It's going to be everything you need to know to understand Gödel's incompleteness theorem. He's been working on and studying and researching this for a decade and a half at minimum, maybe longer. So decades of time he's been putting into this. He is going to come and it is going to be an amazing course. So I'm not sure when the schedule is for that, but pay attention, stay tuned and that's also coming up, as well as some other courses by him. So we will end the memes and we'll turn them off right now. And we've got go time. It's go time, baby. All right. Let's get the, I should turn the light on. I forgot. We're not reading a hard copy. We're just going to read it off the screen. Who needs the light? Okay, let's move this here. Let's do this. Let's make sure it's good for that. Okay, so like and retweet this, please, por favor, if you like to anyway. And all right, that's out of the way. That's out of the way. Let's go ahead and move this here. And we are going to start. Okay, so let's talk about this one. Sometimes we just jump right in. Let's talk about Credo for a moment. If I remember correctly, what's going on is Socrates. We haven't even read the Apology yet, right? We read the Euthyphro. We've seen some dialogues that are somewhat connected to this whole trial of Socrates and death of Socrates thing. But this Credo is a good friend of Socrates, shows up while he's in prison, awaiting the right time for him to be executed. And we'll see in the text that there's ships coming in, and the time of a season has to end. We'll look at all of that, but essentially, he hasn't been executed yet, but he will be at some point. And in that interval, he's having conversations, and so Crito shows up to continue the thing that Socrates and his friends love doing, which is not pretending they know things, not pretending to be the authorities who have the knowledge, but instead coming together to say, since we don't know, maybe we could engage in something approximating wise discussion. And maybe that wise discussion could get us closer to understanding what we need to know. And maybe what we need to know is deeper than a definition. Maybe we can show that the definitions don't work, but maybe it's characterological, and maybe we need to, maybe Plato needed dialogues. He needed narrative in order to give us this character of Socrates to engage with. And so we're going to look at the way the characters interact, and that's going to illuminate for us their characters. And there's something characterological going on as well here. So we're not going to be blind to that. But his friends are coming to visit him, and one is gonna, one is basically gonna say, "Hey, man, nobody really wants you to die here. We bribed some people, and there's a way for you to escape, and we think you should take it." And Socrates is gonna have a conversation about justice and the laws and what's proper. And okay, so let's get into it. So sorry, I forgot my water. I will be right back very rapidly. Mhm. Okay, here we go. The credo. Why have you come at this hour, credo? It must be quite early. Yes, certainly, says Crito. What is the exact time, says Socrates. Well, the dawn is breaking. I wonder the keeper of the prison would let you in, says Socrates. And he knows me off because I often come, Socrates. Moreover, I have done him a kindness. And are you only just come? Did you just arrive? No, no, I came some time ago. Then why did you sit and say nothing instead of awakening me at once? Why, indeed, Socrates, I myself would rather not have all this sleeplessness and sorrow, but I have been wondering at your peaceful slumbers, and that was the reason why I did not awaken you, because I wanted you to be out of pain. I have always thought you happy in the calmest of your temperament, but never did I see the like of the easy, cheerful way in which you bear this calamity. All right. So we're getting some hints about what's going on, right? Crito comes often to see Socrates in prison, and Socrates is protesting. Why didn't you wake me up right away? I mean, all we live for are these great conversations we get to have. And well, he says, "Look, I was watching you sleep, and I can't sleep at night. I'm so worried about what's going to happen to you, and I was just wondering at how well you how you sleep so peacefully." And Socrates says, "Why, Crito? When a man has reached my age, he ought not to be repining at the prospect of death. And yet, other old men, says Crito, find themselves in similar misfortunes, and age does not prevent them from repining." Well, that may be, but you have not told me why you come at this early hour. I come to bring you a message which is sad and painful, not, as I believe, to yourself, but to all of us who are your friends, and saddest of all to me. What, says Socrates, I suppose that the ship has come from Delos, on the arrival of which I am to die? No, the ship has not actually arrived, he says, but she will probably be here today, as persons who have come from Sunium tell me that they have left her there, and therefore tomorrow, Socrates, will be the last day of your life. Very well, Crito. If such is the will of God, I am willing. But my belief is that there will be a delay of a day. Why do you say this? I will tell you. I am to die on the day after the arrival of the ship, right? Yes, that's what the authorities say. But I do not think that the ship will be here until tomorrow. This I gather from a vision which I had last night, or rather, only just now when you fortunately allowed me to sleep. What was the nature of the vision, says Crito. There came to me the likeness of a woman, fair and comely, clothed in white raiment, who called to me and said, O Socrates, the third day hence to Pythia shalt thou go. What a singular dream, Socrates, says Crito. There can be no doubt about the meaning, Crito, I think. We're going to keep reading this, but really quickly, let's pause. We said that Plato is using narrative to give us a character, a way of being in the world that is Socrates. And there's something philosophically significant about that. There's argument, there's propositions, and there's all of this other stuff that's worth paying attention to. He's doing that type of philosophy as well. Beyond that, I've also mentioned in the first four classes from time to time that Socrates as a character is prophetic. He's given up intellectual pursuits other than the field of ethics, and he spends as much time as he can discussing ethics with those who are willing to discuss. He says, I've very much been willing to pay for a student as well. That's what he spends his time doing. There's a prophetic element to Socrates as well. And what we're going to see is while he's in prison, he actually starts getting interested in mythopoetry. He starts getting interested in other prophetic sources and revelatory sources as well. Also, just now we got to see, well, he had this dream. He says, I don't think the ship's coming tomorrow, like you say. I think it's going to come in 2 days. It'll be delayed by a day, I think, because I'm supposed to die the right day after. And I was just told in a vision, in a dream, that that's 3 days from now. Okay. And there can be no doubt of the meaning. So yeah, Socrates says, okay, if we're going to deal with revelation, some might be difficult to decode, but that one seems pretty clear. So Crito responds, yes, the meaning is only too clear. Oh, but my beloved Socrates, let me entreat you once more to take my advice and escape. For if you die, I shall not only lose a friend who can never be replaced, but there is another evil. People who do not know you and me will believe that I might have been able to save you if I had only been willing to give money, but that I didn't care. Now, can there be a worse disgrace than this? That I should be thought to value money more than the life of a friend? For the many will not be persuaded that I wanted you to escape and that you refused. Okay, let's notice a few things. Crito's been coming often to talk with Socrates. He's obviously been trying to convince him to escape prison. And he launches into another final appeal, right? As the 12th hour is approaching. He says, look, and his appeal is not for Socrates' own sake. He's trying maybe a new tact now that he hasn't tried before. He's like, look, how horrible for me that most people are going to think of me as a jerk and a bad friend because I could have saved you. I've got money. I could have bribed somebody, and they're not going to believe that you really just chose to die instead. So, for my sake, he's trying. He's trying his best to convince Socrates to stay alive. Soc says, but why, my dear Crito, should we care about the opinion of the many? Good men, and they are the only persons who are worth considering, will think of these things truly as they happened. But do you see, says Crito, Socrates, that the opinion of the many must be regarded as is evident in your own case. Now, this is what Anytus said to Socrates when he was talking with Meno. He said, be careful, buddy. You're pissing off a lot of people and there's consequences. And then Anytus brought the charge against Socrates that's led to his conviction, played a role in leading to his conviction. We'll read the apology and see there's a lot more going on there. But so Creto's saying, "Hey, isn't your own case proof that you should worry about the many people who might not be good or whatever? We should care about the opinion of the good when it comes to the good, but the many can also execute you, and doesn't that also matter? And so it's going to be a harm to me that they all think I'm a jerk that never cared about you, right? Okay, because they can do the very greatest evil to anyone who has lost their good opinion. Don't you see, Socrates?" Socrates is going to disagree. I only wish, Crito, that they could. For then they could also do the greatest good, and that would be well. But the truth is that they can do neither good nor evil. They cannot make a man wise or make him foolish, and whatever they do is the result of chance. These are shadow creatures. They're plugged into the matrix. Don't worry about their opinion. They can't harm anybody. Well, I will not dispute about that, says Crito, but please to tell me, Socrates, whether you are not acting out of regard to me and your other friends. Are you not afraid that if you escape hence, we may get into trouble with the informers for having stolen you away and lose either the whole or a great part of our property, or that even a worse evil may come upon us? Now, is this your fear? If it is, be at ease, for in order to save you, we ought surely to run this or even a greater risk. Be persuaded then and do as I say. Yes, Crito. That is one fear which you mentioned, but by no means the only one. Well, fear not, says Crito. There are persons who, at no great cost, are willing to save you and bring you out of prison. And as for the informers, you may observe that they are far from being exorbitant in their demands. A little money will satisfy them, by means which, as I am sure, are ample, are at your service. And If you have a scruple about spending all mine, here are strangers who will give you the use of theirs. And one of them, Simmias, the Theban, has brought a sum of money for this very purpose, and Sebes and many others are willing to spend their money too. I say, therefore, do not on that account hesitate about making your escape, and do not say, yes, you did in the court, or as you did in the court, that you will have a difficulty in knowing what to do with yourself if you escape. For men will love you in other places to which you may go, and not in Athens only. There are friends of mine in Thessaly, if you like to go to them, who will value and protect you, and no Thessalian will give you any trouble, nor can I think you are justified, Socrates, in betraying your own life when it might be saved. This is playing into the hands of your enemies and destroyers. And moreover, I should say that you are betraying your children, for you might bring them up and educate them, instead of which you go away and leave them, and they will have to take their chance. And if they do not meet with the usual fate of orphans, they will be that there will be small thanks to you. No man should bring children into the world who is unwilling to persevere to the end in their nurture and education. But you are choosing the easier part, as I think, not the better and manlier, which would rather have become one who professes virtue in all his actions, like yourself. And indeed, I am ashamed not only of you, but of us who are your friends, when I reflect that this entire business of yours will be attributed to your want of courage. The trial never the trial need never have come on, or might have been brought to another issue. And the end of all, which is the crowning absurdity, will seem to have been permitted by us through cowardice and baseness, who might have saved you, as you might have saved yourself, if we had been good for anything. For there was no difficulty in escaping it, and we did not see how disgraceful, Socrates, and also miserable all this will be to us, as well as to you. Make your mind up then. Or rather, have your mind made up already, for the time of deliberation is over, and there is only one thing to be done, which must be done, if at all, this very night, and which any delay will render all but impossible. I beseech you, therefore, Socrates, to be persuaded by me and do as I say. All right, you can sense the intensity, right, and the sense of distress that he has here, and he's throwing out a bunch of arguments. And they're not bad arguments, dear Credo. Your zeal is invaluable if a right one. But if wrong, the greater the zeal, the greater the evil. And therefore, we ought to consider whether these things shall be done or not. For I am and always have been. Oh, here's another reason to pause. I'm so sorry. We've said this before and it's been hinted at. But Credo's making all these arguments like, look, this didn't even have to get to trial, right? We're going to read the apology before too long, but I'll just say Socrates was convicted by a slim majority. The jury is like 600 something people, I think. I'll look up the numbers exactly, but it was a slim majority who voted for him to be guilty in the first place. And then what happens is the prosecution says what punishment he should get, and the defense has to give their own alternative punishment. And it's basically like the court has to pick between the two. And what Socrates did is he made it basically impossible for them to not pick the death penalty, because um, and I'll explain why here. This whole thing is motivated by the fact that Socrates says he has a personal daemon, a spirit that is with him, and it never tells him what to do. But whenever he's about to lie or to do anything that isn't just, it tells him not to do it. And what separates him from other men is that he made a commitment to just always obeying what the spirit says. And that's led him to where it led. And he won't lie and pretend something different. So when he says, what punishment should I get for trying to make the state healthier and more ethical through my conversations, which I'm not going to stop doing, even if you set me free and tell me I have to stop, is that you should give me the awards that you would give an Olympic champion, and I get to eat for free in the town, and all of this stuff. Like, it's basically like death penalty or the highest honors. And he's, I'm not going to lie. I think this is actually the truth, and I'm going to say this. And so Frito's saying, look, it didn't have to get this bad. It didn't even have to go to court. You could have gotten out of it. And now you could get out of it again. Why is it like you're choosing death here, Socrates? And so let's see his response. Dear Credo, your zeal is invaluable if a right one, but if it's wrong, the greater the zeal, the greater the evil. Therefore, let's first settle the question of whether or not it would be right for me to escape. Once we do that, we'll know what direction to go. Okay. For I am always, for I am, and always have been, one of those natures who must be guided by reason, whatever the reason may be, which upon reflection appears to me to be the best. And now that this fortune has come upon me, I cannot put away the reasons which I have before given. The principles which I have hitherto honored and revered, I still honor. And unless we can find other and better principles of the instant, I am certain not to agree with you. No, not even if the power of the multitude should inflict many more imprisonments, confiscations, deaths, frightening us like little children with hobgoblin terrors. But what will be the fairest way of considering the question? Okay, before he moves on, one more thing to comment here. We're starting to see emerging the idea that Socrates doesn't think any harm can come to him. Whatever the outcome of living the way he's living is by definition the best thing. And shadows can lash out against things of substance all they want to. They can't do anything to you. And so he's going to stick to this path. The other thing to notice is this: Socrates united a life of action with a life of philosophy. I don't just mean he was he was a noble hero in the wars and all of that sort of thing, but rather everything here hinges, and we're going to see this in this dialogue. Everything he's ever done, everything he's ever talked about, all of the philosophical conversations about the right way to live, they mean nothing. They all mean nothing if he escapes. If he escapes, they were a way of passing the time. They were a way of tricking people. They were all in service to anything to get a few more years of miserable life outside the city. If he takes this action, the words he said mean the opposite of what they used to mean. I don't think so. Give me the cup. I'm thirsty. All of that. I mean it. It's real. I mean, the only reason it's been preserved for us is the fact that he was willing to drink the hemlock. And he understands that. We're going to see he understands prophetically. He talks about our time. He talks about the future. He understands where he is in the timeline here. And that's going to emerge. So let's keep reading. But what will be the fairest way to consider the question, right? So he's going to have another debate about should I escape or not? Let's see. How will we do this? Shall I return to your old arguments about the opinions of men, some of which are to be regarded, and others, as we were saying, are not to be regarded? Now, were we right in maintaining this before I was condemned? Before I was condemned, we said, let's not worry about the opinion of the multitude. Let's worry about the people who have a good opinion. Were we right when we said that? Or were we wrong? And has the argument which has once now proved to be talk for the sake of talking, in fact an amusement only, and altogether vanity. That is what I want to consider with your help, Credo, whether under my present circumstances the argument appears to be in any way different or not. And is it to be allowed by me or disallowed? That argument, which, as I believe, is maintained by many who assume to be authorities, was to the effect, as I was saying, that the opinions of some men are to be regarded and of other men not to be regarded. Now, you, Credo, are a disinterested person who are not going to die tomorrow, at least. There is no human probability in this, and you are therefore not liable to be deceived by the circumstances in which you are placed. Tell me then whether I am right in saying that some opinions and the opinions of some men only are to be valued, and other opinions and the opinions of other men are not to be valued. I ask you whether I was right in maintaining this. Before all this happened, were we right? And notice the irony. The Greeks invented the word irony to deal with Socrates. The irony is, well, you'll be able to be more reasonable about this because obviously I'm afraid of dying, so I can't see clearly. But you'll tell me, remember the arguments we used to live off of and we based our conversations off of? By the way, anybody who's here wondering, what's the follow rate, like and subscribe, and all of this? Socrates is trying to tell you, get away from the popular. The popular, by definition, is going to be nonsense. We're not interested in that. We're interested in right thinking. So, applicable for a time. He says, "Now remember, we talked about all this. What were we right when we maintained that before all of this?" And Crito says, "Yeah, certainly. The good are to be regarded and not the bad. Is that right?" "Yes, Socrates. And the opinions of the wise are good, and the opinions of the unwise are evil." "Certainly." And what was said about another matter? Didn't we? You see, was the disciple in gymnastics supposed to attend to the praise and blame and opinion of every man, or of one man only, his physician and trainer, or whoever that was? Remember that was something we talked about? Yeah, he should listen to the one man only. And he ought to fear and censure and welcome the praise of that one only and not of many, right? Yeah, that's clear. It's clear that that's the case. Okay. And he ought to live and train and eat and drink in the way which seems good to his single master who has understanding, rather than according to the opinion of all other men put together, right? True, says Crito. And if he disobeys and disregards the opinion and approval of the one and regards the opinion of the many who have no understanding, will he not suffer evil? Certainly he will. Right? They've had this conversation before. He knows. And what will the evil be? Whither tending and what affecting in the disobedient person? Clearly affecting the body, says Crito. That is what is destroyed by the evil. Very good, says Socrates. And is not this true, Crito, of other things which we need not separately enumerate, in the matter of just and unjust, fair and foul, good and evil, which are the subjects of our present consultation? Ought we to follow the opinion of the many and to fear them, or the opinion of the one man who has understanding and whom we ought to fear and reverence more than all the rest of the world? And whom deserting, we shall destroy and injure that principle in us which may be assumed to be improved by justice and deteriorated by injustice. Is there not such a principle? Just like with the just like with the athlete, his body is going to be sick or healthy, whether he listens to the doctor who knows, the coach. Aren't our souls going to get sick? Or aren't they going to be improved by goodness if we pay attention to the right opinions from the right sources rather than want the approval of everyone or the popular view? And that he said, yes, certainly. Certainly there is, Socrates, says Crito. Take a parallel instance. If, acting under the advice of men who have no understanding, we destroy that which is improved by health and deteriorated by disease, when that has been destroyed, I say, would life be worth having? And that is, the body. Like, take that other case again. Would it be worth living if we killed our bodies because we cared about the wrong that holds, right? He goes, yes. Could we live having an evil and corrupted body? Certainly not, says Crito. And will life be worth having if that higher part of man be depraved, which is improved by justice and deteriorated by injustice? Do we suppose that principle, whatever it may be in man, which has to do with justice and injustice, to be inferior to the body? Certainly not, says Crito. More honored then. Superior? Far more honored, said Crito. Then, my friend, we must not regard what the many say of us, but what he, the one man who has understanding of just and unjust, will say, and what the truth will say. And therefore, you begin in error when you suggest that we should regard the opinion of the many about just and unjust, good and evil, honorable and dishonorable. Well, someone will say, but the many can kill us. Yes, Socrates, that will clearly be the answer, says Crito. That is true, says Socrates. But still, I find with surprise that the old argument is, as I conceive, unshaken as ever. And I shall like to know whether I may say the same of another proposition, that not life, but a good life is to be chiefly valued. Yes, we did talk about that. And yes, the argument still remains, says Crito. And a good life is equivalent to a just and an honorable one. That holds also, right? Yes, that holds. From these premises, I proceed to argue the question whether I ought or ought not to try to escape without the consent of the Athenians. And if I am clearly right in escaping, then I will make the attempt. But if not, I will abstain. The other considerations which you mentioned of money and loss of character and the duty of educating children are, I fear, only the doctrines of the multitude, who would be as ready to call people to life if they were able, as they are to put them to death, and with as little reason. But now, since the argument has thus prevailed, and the only question which remains to be considered is whether we shall do rightly, either in escaping or in suffering others to aid in our escape and paying them in money and thanks, or whether we shall not do rightly. And if the latter, then death or any other calamity which may ensue on my remaining here must not be allowed to enter into the calculation. I think you are right, Socrates. The reason holds. How shall we then proceed? Let us consider the matter together, and do you either refute me if you can, and I will be convinced, or else cease, my dear friend, from repeating to me that I ought to escape against the wishes of the Athenians, for I am extremely desirous to be persuaded by you, but not against my better judgment. And now, please, to consider my first position and do your best to answer me. Quick pause. We're going to read the rest of this conversation now. It's very clear. Well, we'll talk more about Socrates with a prophetic element, but it's very clear in this and in the Phaedo that Socrates is demanding of his interlocutors, his students, and bestowing upon them a mantle to continue what he's been doing, to live in the Socratic spirit afterwards. So not only is he having this debate, of course, but there's a lot of drama going on. Crito's about to burst into tears at any moment, it seems, with his pleading. And he's got to go through this argument with Socrates. Why? Is Socrates trying to torture his friend? And no, he's trying to remind him of the principles that they built a lifetime caring about and building their lives upon, and making sure he's got them, and making sure he understands that he's so committed to them that even death doesn't seem like a consequential thing when it comes to walking the path of rightness and truth. Okay, so hey, Credo, show me where I'm wrong. I'll make the case that I'm supposed to stay. That seems to be the reasonable thing. But I'm very desirous to be persuaded. If you can show me that the good life includes running away, maybe I heard the daemon wrong this time. I'd love to be convinced. So let's do it. I'll do my best, says Credo. Are we to say that we are never intentionally to do wrong, or that in one way we ought, and in another way we ought not to do wrong? Or is doing wrong always evil and dishonorable? As I was just now saying, and as has already been acknowledged by us in the past. And are all our former admissions, which were made within a few days, to be thrown away? And have we at our age been earnestly discoursing with one another all our life long, only to discover that we are no better than children? Or are we to rest assured, in spite of the opinion of the many, and in spite of consequences, whether better or worse, of the truth of what was then said, that injustice is always an evil, and dishonor to him who acts unjustly? Shall we affirm what we were saying just days ago? Shall we affirm that? Credo says, yeah, that's still right. Then we must never do wrong. We must do no wrong, says Socrates. Certainly not, says Credo. Okay. Nor, when injured, injure in return, as the many imagine, for we must injure no one at all. Certainly not, says Credo. We'll see in other dialogues how they flesh all this out, but he's just reminding him this is what we've been acting like we believe. Certainly not. Clearly not, says Credo. Again, Credo, may we do evil? Surely not, Socrates. And what of doing evil in return for evil, which is the morality of the many? Is that just or not? It's not just. For doing evil to another is the same as injuring him. It's very true. Then, says Socrates, we ought not to retaliate or render evil for evil to anyone, whatever evil we may have suffered from him. But I would have you consider, Crito, whether you really mean what you are saying. For this opinion has never been held and never will be held by any considerable number of persons, and those who are agreed and those who are not agreed upon this point have no common ground and can only despise one another when they see how widely they differ. Tell me then, whether you agree with me and assent to my first principle, that neither injury nor retaliation, nor war, nor nor warding off evil by evil is ever right. And shall that be the premise of our agreement? Or do you decline and dissent from this? From this, for this has been of old and is still my opinion. But if you are of another opinion, let me hear what you have to say. If, however, you remain of the same mind as formerly, I will proceed to the next step. He's giving him a chance. Show me I'm wrong about this. Maybe we can be done with it and I can return evil to the evil that was done to me and we'll get out of here. You may proceed, says Credo, for I have not changed my mind. And I will proceed to the next step, which may be put in the form of a question. Ought a man to do what he admits to be right, or ought he to betray the right? He ought to do what he thinks is right, says Credo. But if this is true, then what is the application? In leaving the prison against my will of the Athenian, against the will of the Athenians, do I wrong any? Or rather, do I not wrong those whom I ought least to wrong? Do I not desert the principles which were acknowledged by us to be just? What do you say? I cannot tell, Socrates, for I do not know. He wants there to be a good reason, a way for him to be good and leave, right? All right, well, then consider the matter this way. Imagine that I am about to play truant. You may call the proceeding by any name that you like. And the laws and the government come and interrogate me. Tell us, Socrates, they say, what are you about? Are you going by an act of yours to overturn us, the laws, and the whole state as far as in you lies? Do you imagine that a state can subsist and not be overthrown, in which the decisions of law have no power, but are set aside and overthrown by individuals? What will be our answer, Credo? To these and the like words, anyone, and especially a clever rhetorician, will have a good deal to urge about the evil of setting aside the law which requires a sentence to be carried out. And we might reply, yes, but the state has injured us and given us unjust sentence. Suppose that I were to say that. Very good, Socrates, says Crito. Okay, fine, Socrates says. And was that our agreement with you? The laws would answer. Or were you to abide by the sentence of the state? And if I were to express astonishment at their saying this, the law would probably add, answer, Socrates, instead of opening your eyes. You are in the habit of asking and answering questions. Tell us what complaint you have to make against us which justifies you in attempting to destroy us and the state. In the first place, did we not bring you into existence? Your father and your mother married by our aid and begat you. Say whether you have any objection to urge against those of us who regulate marriage. None, I should reply. Or against those of us who regulate the system of nurture and education of children in which you were trained. Were not the laws who have the charge of this right in commanding your father to train you in music and gymnastics? Right, I should reply. Well, then, since you were brought into the world and nurtured and educated by us, can you deny in the first place that you are our child and slave, as your fathers were before you? And if this is true, you are not on equal terms with us, nor can you think that you have a right to do to us what we are doing to you. Would you have any right to strike or revile or do any evil to your father or to your master if you had one? When you have been struck or reviled by him, or received some other evil at his hands? You would not say this. And because we think right to destroy you, do you think that you have any right to destroy us in return and your country as far as in you lies? And will you, O professor of true virtue, say that you are justified in this? Has a philosopher like you failed to discover that our country is more to be valued and higher and holier far than mother or father or any ancestor, and more to be regarded in the eyes of the gods and of men of understanding? Also to be soothed and gently and reverently entreated when angry, even more than a father, and if not persuaded, then obeyed. And when you and when we are punished by her, Whether with imprisonment or stripes, the punishment is to be endured in silence. And if she leads us to wounds or death in battle, thither we follow as is right. Neither may anyone yield or retreat or leave his rank. But whether in battle or in a court of law or in any other place, we must do what his city and his country order him. He must do what his city and his country order him, or he must change their view of what is just. And if you may do no violence to, and if he may do no violence to his father or mother, much less may he do violence to his country. What answer shall we make of this credo? Shall we make to this credo? Do the laws speak truly or do they not? I think that they do, says Credo. Then the laws will say, Socrates continues, consider, Socrates, if this is true, that in your present attempt you are going to do us wrong. For after having brought you into the world and nurtured and educated you and given you and every other citizen a share in every good that we had to give, we further proclaim and give the right to every Athenian that if he does not like us when he has come of age and has seen the ways of the city and made our acquaintance, he may go where he pleases and take his goods with him, and none of us laws will forbid him or interfere with him. Any of you who does not like us and the city, and who wants to go to a colony or to any other city, may go where he likes and take his goods with him. But he who has experience of the manner in which we order justice and administer the state, and still remains, has entered into an implicit contract that he will do as we command him. And he who disobeys us is, as we maintain, thrice wrong. First, because in disobeying us, he is disobeying his parents. Secondly, because we are the authors of his education. Thirdly, because he has made an agreement with us that he will duly obey our commands, and he neither obeys them nor convinces us that our commands are wrong. And we do not rudely impose them, but give him the alternative of obeying or convincing us. That is what we offer, and he does neither. These are the sorts of accusations to which, as we were saying, you, Socrates, will be exposed if you accomplish your intentions, you, above all other Athenians. Suppose I ask, why is this? They will justly retort upon me that I, above all other men, have acknowledged the agreement. There is clear proof, they will say, Socrates, that we and the city were not displeasing to you. Of all Athenians, you have been the most constant resident in the city, which, as you never leave, you may be supposed to love. For you never went out of the city, either to see the games, except once when you went to the isthmus, or to any other place unless when you were on military service. Nor did you travel as other men do, nor had you any curiosity to know other states or their laws or affections. Your affections did not go beyond us and our state. We were your especial favorites, and you acquiesced in our governance of you. And this is the state in which you begat your children, which is a proof of your satisfaction. Moreover, you might, if you had liked, have fixed the penalty at banishment in the course of the trial. The state which refuses to let you go now would have let you go then. But you pretended that you preferred death to exile and that you were not grieved at death. And now you have forgotten these fine sentiments and pay no respect to us, the laws, of whom you are the destroyer, and are going and are doing what only a miserable slave would do, running away and turning your back upon the compacts and agreements which you made as a citizen. And first of all, answer this very question. Are we right in saying that you agreed to be governed according to us in deed and not in word only? Is that true or not? How shall we answer that, Credo? Must we not agree? There's no way out of it, Socrates. There is no help, Socrates, says Credo. Then they will say to us, you, Socrates, are breaking the covenants and agreements, which, let me make this a little larger so I can read it a little more easily. You, Socrates, are breaking the covenants and agreements which you made with us at your leisure, not in any haste or under any compulsion or deception, but having had 70 years to think of them, during which time you were at liberty to leave the city if we were not to your mind, or if our covenants appeared to you to be unfair. You had your choice, and might have gone either to Lacedaemon or Crete, which you often praised for their good governance, or to some other Hellenic or foreign state, whereas you, above all other Athenians, seem to be so fond of the state, or, in other words, of us, her laws. For who would like a state that has no laws? That you never stirred out of her. The halt, the blind, the maimed were not more stationary in her than you were. And now you run away and forsake your agreements? Not so, Socrates. If you will take our advice, do not make yourself ridiculous by escaping out of the city. For just consider, this is again Socrates talking to Crito about what the laws would say. For just consider, he goes on in the voice of the laws, if you transgress and err in this sort of way, what good will you do, either to yourself or to your friends? That your friends will be driven into exile and deprived of citizenship or will lose their property is tolerably certain. And you yourself, if you fly to one of the neighboring cities, as for example, Thebes or Megara, both of which are well governed cities, will come to them as an enemy, Socrates, of their government, and their government will be against you, and all patriotic citizens will cast an evil eye upon you as a subverter of the laws, and you will confirm in the minds of the judges the justice of their own condemnation of you. For he who is a corrupter of the laws is more than likely to be a corrupter of the young and foolish portion of mankind. Will you then flee from well ordered cities and virtuous men? And is existence worth having on these terms? Or will you go to them without shame and talk to them, Socrates? What will you say to them? What will you say about virtue and justice and institutions and laws being the best things among men? Would that be decent of you? Surely not. But if you go away from well governed states to Creto's friends in Thessaly, where there is great disorder and license, they will be charmed to have the tale of your escape from prison. Ho, ho. Set off with ludicrous particulars of the manner in which you were wrapped in a goat skin or some other disguise and metamorphosed in the fashion of runaways is that is very likely. But will there be no one to remind you that in your old age you violated the most sacred laws from a miserable desire for a little more life? Perhaps not, if you keep them in good temper. But if they are out of temper, you will hear many degrading things. You will live, but how? As the flatterer of all men and the servant of all men. And doing what? Eating and drinking in Thessaly? Having gone abroad in order that you may get a dinner? And where will be your fine sentiments about justice and virtue then? Say what you wish to live for the sake, say that you wish to live for the sake of your children, that you may bring them up and educate them. Will you take them into Thessaly and deprive them of Athenian citizenship? Is that the benefit which you would confer upon them? Or are you under the impression that they will be better cared for and educated here if you are still alive, although absent from them, for that your friends will take care of them? Do you fancy that if you are an inhabitant of Thessaly, they will take care of them? And if you are an inhabitant of the other world, they will not take care of them? Nay, but if they who call themselves friends are truly friends, they surely will. It's going through a lot of arguments here, and he diverted over to this. Hey, you're going to escape and not bring your kids. You're going to deprive them of better education. Oh, you're going to escape and leave your kids. Why? Your friends will take care of them. Well, if they're gonna take care of them when you die anyway, right? That's not an added bonus. Listen then, Socrates, to us who have brought you up. Think not of life and children first, and of justice afterwards, but of justice first, that you may be justified before the princes of the world below. For neither will you nor any that belong to you be happier or holier or juster in this life. or happier in another, if you do as Credo bids. Now, you depart in innocence, a sufferer and a doer of evil, a victim, not of the laws, but of men. But if you go forth returning evil for evil and injury for injury, breaking the covenants and agreements which you have made with us, and wronging those whom you ought least to wrong, that is to say, yourself, your friends, your country, and us, we shall be angry with you while you live. And our brethren, the laws in the world below, will receive you as an enemy, for they will know that you have done your best to destroy us. Listen then to us and not to Credo. This is the voice which I seem to hear murmuring in my ears, says Socrates, like the sound of the flute in the ears of the mystic. That voice, I say, is humming in my ears and prevents me from hearing any other. And I know that anything more which you will say will be in vain. Yet speak if you have anything to say, Credo. I have nothing to say, Socrates. Then let me follow, then let me follow the imitations of the will of God. I'm sorry. Then let me follow the intimations of the will of God. The end. Okay. We've done a lot of little commentary as we went. That's a good dialogue. We're going to get to read the Phaedo. We're going to get, this isn't going to be the last of Socrates before he drinks the hemlock, but it's a very important one. I talked about why, and we've mentioned it a little bit throughout. This has gone a lot faster than our previous readings, which is totally fine. What we're going to do now is open up an open Twitter space where anybody can grab a mic and we can discuss all this further, and we'll end the recording here. Really quickly, for those who are not here, you can check the beginning of this video for some stuff. I'll briefly say on the 22nd, we have two artists coming. We're going to read Socrates' conversation with Ion. These are good artists. One has an album coming out soon. We're going to read Socrates talking about inspiration in the muses, and we're also going to have an interview conversation with one or both of these artists. So that's coming up. And the rest of the calendar, just go look at the beginning of this video. I started early to talk about all these things. So we'll end the recording now, and I'll go open the Twitter spaces and we'll talk about the Credo. Thank you.